Welcome back to Fluent English, the podcast. I'm Giorgia. Think in English.
And I'm Willem R. Today's episode is really exciting.
Welcome to the deep dive. You know, we love taking these big, sometimes intimidating goals and really breaking down the source material to find, well, a clear, actionable path forward. And today, we are tackling something huge. I mean, arguably the ultimate challenge for any really serious English learner.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, bridging that gap, going from just understanding English to actually speaking it with that natural, native-like fluency.
It really is the final frontier, isn't it? So many dedicated learners, they just hit this wall.
Exactly.
They've got the vocabulary down, they can ace grammar tests, no problem. But then, when it comes to actually talking, in real-time conversation, they often say their speech feels slow or maybe too formal, and sometimes, frustratingly, a bit robotic.
Oh, that robotic feeling, that sense of disconnect, where everything you know in your head just doesn't quite translate into, smooth spoken output. It's so common.
It really is.
So, okay, our mission today, let's dig into the research you brought. We want to pinpoint the practical steps, the non-magical stuff, right? That actually lets a learner sound genuinely natural.
Absolutely. We're focusing hard on the how. The musicality, the mechanics of how you actually deliver the language. It's not just about what words you know anymore.
Right. It's the delivery.
We're shifting the focus, moving away from just the academic side of learning a language towards, almost the performance art of conversation.
Performance art. I like that.
Yeah. And the sources we looked at, they lay out this really intentional practice routine. It's designed to basically rewire your brain and your mouth muscles at the same time.
Okay, rewiring sounds intense, but necessary.
It is. But if you commit, if you stay consistent, this deep dive really promises a clear path to getting that natural flow everyone's after. So let's unpack this first crucial thing, redefining the goal itself.
Okay, let's nail this down first, because if you don't know where you're actually heading, well, the whole journey's kind of pointless, isn't it?
Exactly. Aiming for the wrong target.
And the source material, it jumps right on the biggest myth straight away. This idea, this notion that sounding native means you have to pick up, a perfect RP British accent or a general American one.
And that single expectation, that's often the very first thing that makes learners just freeze up with anxiety.
Totally understandable.
Because it's basically an impossible goal for most people. And honestly, an unnecessary one.
Right.
The sources are really clear. Native-like fluency is not about imitating an accent. I mean, just think about the huge variety of totally legitimate native accents out there.
Scottish, Australian, Southern U.S., London.
Exactly. So the accent itself, that can't be the benchmark.
Right.
The real benchmark is, can people understand you easily? And crucially, does your speech have a natural rhythm?
Okay, so if we ditch the accent copying, what is the actual usable definition? What are the core things that make someone sound fluent and natural to a native speaker?
We can kind of boil it down to three main pillars, things you have to consciously train.
Okay, 3 pillars. Lay them out.
The first one, and honestly probably the most important, it's natural rhythm and intonation, sometimes called prosody.
Prosody, the music of the language.
Precisely. It covers things like, where do you put the stress on words in a sentence? How do you naturally link sounds together, connected speech? And how does your pitch go up and down to show meaning, like emotion, or if you're asking a question?
Right, that's the cadence, the flow we hear. It's the difference between, hearing someone speak word by word by word.
Like a robot,
versus hearing this smooth, continuous stream of thought. So what bits of that rhythm really trip learners up, especially if they're focusing too much on just pronouncing each word perfectly?
Oh, a huge one is sentence stress. Knowing which words carry the main meaning and should be emphasized. And also the reduction of certain sounds.
Reductions.
Yeah, to native speakers. We almost never pronounce every single word fully and clearly. We reduce small function words, things like to, of, are, and.
Like gonna instead of going to?
Exactly. Or wanna for want to. Or saying fish and chips instead of fish and chips. Learners who try to carefully say every single syllable, they immediately sound a bit unnatural because they miss these essential reductions and the way sounds link together.
That's fascinating. It's like the shortcuts are actually essential. Okay, what's the second pillar? It moves beyond just the sounds, right?
Okay, great. The second pillar is using common phrases and idiomatic expressions. You call them lexical chunks.
Lexical chunks, like pre-made blocks of language?
Pretty much. Native speakers, we operate using these pre-assembled units all the time. We don't usually construct a sentence like, say, I am going to quickly acquire some food to consume, word by word.
Uh-huh. No one says that.
Right. We just pull out a chunk like, I'm going to grab a quick bite to eat.
Eh.
A functional unit stored in our mental toolbox.
Those prepackaged templates, that must speed things up massively.
Absolutely. And the third element is actually simpler, in a way. It's just sounding confident and smooth, which really means prioritizing that flow, that rhythm we talked about, over getting every single grammar point perfectly right while you're speaking.
So flow over accuracy during the act of speaking.
Exactly.
So what's the takeaway for the learner here? This redefinition, it totally changes where you should focus your energy, doesn't it?
It really does.
Like if I spend my time really mastering those reductions, connected speech, and learning common phrases, even if I still mess up a preposition sometimes, the overall impression I give is probably going to be much more fluent and natural than if I had perfect grammar but spoke like word. Pause.word.
Absolutely. You've hit the nail on the head. It shifts the goalposts away from this impossible target of linguistic perfection towards communicative competence. Fluidity. Think about it. If someone speaks really slowly and choppily, the listener has to work hard just to piece the meaning together.
Right. It's effortful to listen to.
But if someone speaks smoothly, rhythmically, even with a few small mistakes here and there, the listener's brain can just relax and absorb the message. The main goal is effective communication, and that relies so much more on prosody and flow than on flawless grammar in the moment.
Okay, so we have a much clearer target now. Rhythm, phrases, flow. Let's talk about what gets in the way, that common feeling of being stuck. You know the vocabulary, you know the grammar rules, but somehow it just doesn't come out sounding natural, it's robotic. What are the specific internal barriers stopping that natural speech?
Well, the sources we looked at point to 3 really common cognitive challenges. They kind of create that robotic output. And honestly, they mostly boil down to interference from your native language and just cognitive overload.
Okay, break down the first one. This sounds like a biggie.
It usually is. The first one is the classic problem of direct translation.
Thinking in language A and speaking in language B.
Exactly. The learner thinks a whole thought in their native language, their L1. Then, as they're speaking, they try to convert that thought, word for word, into English, the L2. The trouble is, this forces the grammar structure, and just as importantly, the rhythm and cadence of their native language onto English.
Which slows everything right down. Your brain's trying to run 2 operating systems at once for every single thing you say.
Precisely. It creates this massive processing delay, this latency in the conversation.
Yeah, you can't keep up. If I have to think it, translate it, then say it, I'm already way behind the natural pace of a chat.
Exactly. That delay just kills the flow. And because your brain is working so hard just on the translation part, it doesn't have any resources left over to think about rhythm or intonation or linking sounds together smoothly. Which leads us straight into the second roadblock.
Which stems from that interference.
Yep. It's grammar focus overload.
The perfectionist trap, trying too hard to get it right.
Exactly that. You're putting way too much mental energy into checking grammar rules while you're trying to speak. Things like, is the verb tense right? Did I use the correct preposition? Do I need a or the here? All that reviewing happening in real time as you're talking, it just constantly interrupts the flow. Spontaneous speech needs to be fluid. If you keep stopping to consciously apply rules, you break the momentum. You hesitate.
And hesitation is the absolute enemy of natural rhythm, isn't it?
It really is.
It forces these unnatural pauses. It signals to the listener that you're actively constructing the language piece by piece, rather than just letting it flow.
Right. You're building it, not retrieving it.
But hang on. If we tell people not to focus on grammar while speaking, won't they just keep making the same mistakes over and over? Won't they reinforce errors?
That's a really important question. And the sources address this directly. They argue that grammar study is absolutely vital, crucial even.
Okay.
But it needs to be done separately from the act of speaking. When you are speaking, your goal is flow, communication, rhythm. When you are studying, that's when your goal is accuracy and correctness.
Separate modes.
Exactly. If you constantly interrupt your speaking flow to self-correct grammar on the fly, you're essentially training your brain that speaking English is this slow, analytical, stop-start process.
Instead of a fast, automatic one.
Right. The idea is to build that automaticity first, get the flow going, then you use dedicated study time, maybe looking at recordings of yourself, to identify and fix the errors.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Separate the training for fluency from the training for accuracy. Got it. What's the third roadblock?
The third major challenge is maybe simpler, but really profound. It's a lack of real-life immersion.
Meaning not hearing enough real English.
Exactly. Learners just aren't consuming enough authentic, natural English as it's actually spoken. If the main English you hear comes from, say, textbook audio CDs.
Which are often spoken very slowly and clearly.
And perfectly articulated, yeah. Then your ear never gets trained to recognize the reality of everyday conversation. You miss the speed, the reductions, the way sounds get slurred together sometimes, the natural pitch changes, the emotional range.
So if you don't actually hear that messy, natural flow consistently, you've got no chance of ever replicating it yourself.
Pretty much. Your ear has to be trained first. It needs to recognize the true sound of the language before your mouth can even attempt to produce it.
That really connects the dots, doesn't it?
It's the key link, I think. You can't sound natural if you don't actively hear and then, crucially, start to think in natural English. These three roadblocks, the translation habit, the grammar over-analysis, the lack of real listening, they're all symptoms, really. Symptoms that the speaker hasn't yet internalized English enough to use it as a direct tool for thinking and communicating.
Okay, knowing those traps, the translation, the overthinking, the lack of listening, it becomes really clear we need specific tools to get around them. So let's get straight into the action plan. This is where we lay out those 5 practical techniques the sources recommend, the things you can actually do to bridge that gap between knowing English and speaking it naturally.
Right, and these are designed to become part of your daily routine. This isn't about learning lists of new grammar rules. It's about training your brain and your voice to work together automatically.
All right, step 1, listen like crazy. Dedicated listening. But we need to define dedicated, right? It's not just having a podcast playing while you do the dishes. What does this focused listening actually look like?
It needs real intention behind it.
Yeah.
The advice is pretty consistent. Set aside at least 30 to 60 minutes every single day and listen to a variety of stuff.
Like what?
Podcasts, interviews, maybe stand-up comedy, movies, TV shows without subtitles sometimes.
Yeah.
Anything where people are speaking English naturally at a normal conversational speed. And the key is your brain has to be actively engaged. You're not just passively hearing it.
Okay, engaged listening. But beyond just understanding the words, what's the specific focus? You said we need to train the ear to the sound, not just the meaning.
That's the critical bit. The instruction is to focus intently on the speaker's prosody. That's the fancy word for.
The music again.
Yeah, the music, their tone of voice, the rhythm of their sentences, and pay special attention to all that connected speech stuff we mentioned.
The reductions and linking.
Exactly. Listen actively for those reductions, like should've becoming shoulda. Listen for contractions. It's your don't. And listen for how sounds link together between words, like how turn off can sound almost like turn off.
Okay. So you're basically becoming like a linguistic detective or a sound engineer. You're trying to reverse engineer the sound patterns of natural speech.
That's a great way to put it. This deep listening, this acoustic foundation, it's where the whole process has to start.
Makes sense.
Because consistent, focused listening literally trains your ear to expect the natural cadence. If your ear doesn't recognize that gonna is the normal, natural sound for going to in fast speech,
Then your mouth will automatically say going to very clearly.
and boom, you've just broken the natural flow. So the step 1, it builds the internal template, the mental map of the rhythm that you absolutely need for step 2.
Okay, brings us to step 2. This sounds like the active part, the dynamic solution for actually building the muscle memory for that rhythm we just talked about. Using the shadowing technique, this seems crucial for making it automatic. Can you explain exactly how it works?
Right, shadowing is, well, it's a really deep immersion practice.
Yeah.
You're essentially mimicking a native speaker as closely as you possibly can, sometimes almost speaking at the exact same time as them.
Like an echo.
Kind of like an echo, yeah.
Yeah.
The process is basically this. Find a short audio clip, maybe 2 or 3 minutes of continuous, natural speech. Play one line or even just a phrase. Pause the audio, and then immediately repeat that line or phrase exactly as the speaker said it.
Exactly how? Meaning?
Meaning you try to match their pace, their rhythm, their pauses, their pitch changes, even their volume shifts and their tone of voice. You're aiming for a carbon copy of the sound.
The sources called it echoing, right? It sounds like it forces you out of your analytical brain, the one worrying about grammar,
sure.
and into your performance brain, the
Yeah.
one just focused on making the sounds.
It's incredibly effective because it directly tackles that cognitive overload problem, roadblock number 2. When you're shadowing properly, you simply cannot be analyzing grammar. You don't have time.
All your focus is on mimicry.
All of it. Your entire focus is just on replicating the sound you just heard. And this practice, it forces your mouth muscles, your tongue, your vocal cords to adopt the native rhythm. It physically connects the listening part of your brain with the speaking part, what neuroscientists sometimes call the Wernicke-Broca loop. You hear it, you say it immediately.
Okay, let's get tactical. Are there different ways to do it? Like, should you start whispering or go full volume?
Good question. The sources often suggest starting with what they call whisper shadowing.
Whisper shadowing.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to shadow a longer passage.
Yeah.
Whispering lets you keep up the speed and focus purely on the rhythm, the breath, and how sounds link, without the added pressure of getting the volume and full pronunciation perfect right away.
Okay, so start quiet.
Then, once you feel more comfortable with the rhythm of a passage, you move to loud shadowing, actually trying to match the speaker's volume and stress patterns too.
Ah, so you integrate the dynamics.
Right, and that loud shadowing really helps train the concept of phrasing. You start to intuitively feel where the natural breath breaks should occur in a sentence, just like the native speaker takes them.
It really is like rehearsing for a performance, isn't it? You're not just reading the sheet music, you're practicing hitting the notes in the right sequence with the right timing over and over until it becomes physically automatic.
That's the perfect analogy.
Oh.
And it's this consistent physical repetition that makes shadowing so powerful. It accelerates your progress on prosody, on rhythm and intonation, much faster than just standard repeat after me drills, because it demands that rapid automatic production.
Okay, moving on to state 3. Mastering common phrases, or those lexical chunks you mentioned. This sounds like it directly attacks roadblock number 1, that problem of direct translation.
It absolutely does. This step is all about linguistic efficiency.
Efficiency?
Yeah. Think about it. Native speakers sound fluent partly because we're efficient. We rely on, literally, tens of thousands of these fixed multi-word expressions that we've stored up.
And it's not just idioms, right? Like kick the bucket or something.
No, not at all. Idioms are part of it, but it's much broader. Includes really common greetings. How's it going? What's up? Conversational connectors. Actually, by the way, ways to hedge or soften what you say. I guess. Maybe you could. Intensifiers. Really good. Absolutely brilliant. Tons of stuff.
Okay.
Learning these chunks means you get to bypass the whole process of building basic sentences from scratch using individual grammar rules every single time.
Give us some more examples, maybe beyond just I'm thrilled instead of I'm very happy. What kinds of chunks should a learner really focus on collecting and getting down pat?
Well, focusing on chunks that help you manage the conversation is really useful. So instead of just learning single words for agreement or disagreement, learn whole phrases like, that's a good point, but, or I see what you mean, however, or on the flip side, or even just simple things like, if you ask me.
Ah, the conversational glue.
Exactly. And those hedging phrases are gold for sounding more natural and less sort of abrupt or overly direct. Things like, it seems to me that, or I guess you could say, or I was wondering if.
Yeah, those definitely soften things and sound more typically native, especially in British or American English. Okay, so how should learners actually collect these chunks and practice them effectively?
The sources usually suggest a couple of main ways. First, during your active listening practice. Step 1, you should have a notebook or a digital file open. Any phrase you hear repeatedly, anything that sounds like a fixed unit, jot it down.
Build your own phrasebook from real examples.
Exactly. Second, you can use flashcards, either physical or digital apps like Anki or Quizlet. But here's the crucial part. You must practice the entire chunk as one unit.
Not just the individual words within it.
Right. So the flashcard shouldn't just say run late. It should say the whole phrase, I'm running late, or maybe, sorry, I'm running a bit late. And when you practice, you retrieve that entire unit instantly from memory. Same for things like, it's up to you, or let me think about that.
Okay, so when a situation comes up in conversation, say, where you need to politely refuse an offer, your brain doesn't have to assemble, I appreciate the offer, but I cannot.
Right. That takes forever.
Instead, it just retrieves the whole prepackaged chunk, like, oh, I really appreciate the offer, but I won't be able to make it, or whatever the appropriate chunk is.
Exactly that. It's instant retrieval. And that provides the speed you need for natural conversational flow. It dramatically reduces the cognitive load because you're treating complex grammatical structures like phrasal verbs or certain sentence patterns as single functional items. It cuts right through that latency caused by translating in your head.
All right, step 4. This feels like the deepest one, the most fundamental internal shift. Moving beyond just external study methods to internalizing the language, cultivating the habit of thinking in English. This is basically the command to just stop translating in your head. Full stop.
This really is the cognitive leap, isn't it? If you want to speak English directly and fluently, you eventually have to think directly in English.
Makes sense.
And the research strongly suggests that forcing this change in your brain's wiring, it's absolutely possible. But, and it's a big but, it requires serious, consistent effort.
Okay, think in English. It sounds a bit abstract, though. How do you actually do that? What's the practical method the sources recommend for building this habit day to day, especially if you're not living in an English-speaking country?
The main technique is beautifully simple, actually. You basically turn your internal monologue, that little voice inside your head, into an English language narrator for your own life.
Okay. Explain more.
You consciously build the habit of describing your immediate surroundings, what you're doing, how you're feeling, what you're planning to do next, all throughout the day, in English, inside your head.
So, like, if I'm making coffee.
Yeah, you narrate it silently. Okay, need to get the beans. Where's the grinder? Right, grind the beans, need water, fill the kettle. Okay, boiling now. Get the mug, that kind of thing.
Or if you're stuck in traffic. Ugh, this traffic is terrible. I'm going to be late. Should I call them? No, maybe just text.
Exactly. You're giving yourself constant low-stakes practice all day long. There's no one listening, no one to judge you if you make a mistake or can't find the right word immediately.
Right, so the fear of error is way lower, which allows for more fluid internal production practice.
Precisely. And even if you start with really simple sentences, I am tired, this is boring, I need food.
Yeah.
Forcing that mental shift starts to build and strengthen the direct pathway between a concept or an object and its English word or phrase. It trains your brain to bypass your native language.
It really hammers home that fluency isn't just about what you do in a lesson or when you're studying. It's about how you integrate the language into your actual everyday thinking. It's a mental habit.
It absolutely is. And it's so important to acknowledge, like the sources do, that this will feel hard at first. It will probably feel slow and really frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, I can imagine constantly searching for words in your head.
You will. You frequently find yourself grasping for simple words you know.
Yeah.
That's just the brain struggling to build and use that new neural pathway. Persistence here is absolutely key. You have to keep doing it until thinking in English starts to feel, well, less effortful, more like the default setting.
Okay, step 5. This brings it all together. We need that feedback loop, right? Accountability, awareness. If you have no idea what you actually sound like when you speak, you can't make targeted improvements. So step 5 is record and self-check.
This step really closes the loop on the whole practice cycle. The suggestion is pretty straightforward. Make it a daily habit to record yourself speaking English.
Daily? For how long?
Doesn't have to be long, maybe just 1 or 2 minutes. You could read a short paragraph aloud from a natural English source, maybe the transcript of a podcast or interview you listen to in step 1.
Okay.
Or you could simply talk about your day, maybe verbalizing some of that internal narration you practiced in step 4. Just speak naturally for a minute or 2 and record it on your phone.
And just hitting record is only half the battle, right? The really critical part is what comes next, the comparison.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The recording itself doesn't do much good if you don't analyze it. You have to then listen back critically. And ideally, compare your recording to the native speaker model you were using, perhaps the original audio from your listening or shadowing practice.
Yeah.
Steps 1 and 2.
So a side-by-side analysis. What specifically should you be listening for when you compare your speech to the native speakers?
The sources highlight 3 key focus areas for this self-check.
Okay, what are they?
First, stress points. Did you put the emphasis on the same words in the sentence as the native speaker did? Sentence stress can completely change the meaning or just make it sound unnatural if it's wrong.
Right. Stress is crucial. What's second?
Second, pauses and momentum. Listen carefully. What did you pause? Maybe unnecessarily, perhaps out of hesitation. Compare that to the native speaker. Where do they pause naturally for breath or emphasis, and where do they just sail right through, linking words together?
So analyzing the flow and the breaks.
Exactly. And third, vowel reductions and connected speech. This is huge. Did you clearly pronounce every single vowel and consonant in words that the native speaker reduced? Like, did you say, I want to go with a clear ooh sound, when the native speaker probably said something more like, I want to go, or I want go.
Checking if you actually applied those natural reductions you learned about in step 1.
Precisely. So you're using your own recording as a diagnostic tool, focusing purely on the rhythm, the intonation, the flow. not getting bogged down in grammar mistakes during this specific exercise.
And that analysis tells you exactly what you need to focus on in your next shadowing session or your next listening session.
Exactly. It provides targeted feedback. The source material really emphasizes this step because it's one of the best ways to significantly boost your self-awareness about how you actually sound. It moves you from just guessing what your problem areas are to knowing precisely where your natural flow is breaking down. Without that kind of honest self-assessment, your practice can easily become kind of vague and much less effective.
Okay, we've got the 5 steps. Listen, shadow, use phrases, think in English, record, and check. But let's talk about the mindset, the motivation side of things, because it's really easy to get discouraged, isn't it? You start doing all this stuff consistently, but you don't suddenly sound like a native speaker overnight. That expectation, like, I'll sound native in a month, that's just a recipe for quitting.
Oh, absolutely. It's probably the single biggest reason people give up.
Yeah.
It's just fundamentally unrealistic.
Why? Why is it so unrealistic?
Because the goal here isn't just memorizing information like learning vocabulary lists. The real goal is cognitive rewiring. It's building new habits. It's developing muscle memory in your mouth and throat.
Muscle memory.
Yeah. And the sources use a really helpful analogy for this. They compare learning to speak a language fluently, especially nailing the pronunciation and rhythm, to learning a musical instrument.
The instrument analogy again, yeah, that makes sense. You wouldn't pick up a violin and expect to play a Mozart concerto perfectly after just 6 weeks of practicing every day.
Exactly. Or nail complex guitar solos. It takes hundreds, probably thousands of hours of dedicated repetitive practice to make those complex physical movements automatic and smooth.
Right.
And it's the same with fluency. Achieving that natural flow requires thousands of hours of repetition, listening repetition, shadowing repetition, thinking in English repetition to make the incredibly complex mechanics of connected speech, rhythm, and direct thought feel completely automatic.
So thinking about it like learning an instrument, it changes how you should measure success, doesn't it?
Totally. You shift from focusing only on the final outcome, like, do I sound perfect yet?
Yeah.
To focusing on the investment. Am I putting in the consistent practice time? That becomes the marker of success.
Okay, consistency over perfection. What about hitting those inevitable plateaus? You know, those times when you are practicing consistently, following all the steps, but you just feel stuck, like you're not making any progress.
Plateaus are totally normal. In fact, they're usually a sign that your brain is busy consolidating everything it's learned recently. It's like it's organizing the files before it can accept new ones.
Consolidation phase.
Yeah, and the absolute key during a plateau is just keep going. The rule of consistency is paramount here. The sources really hammer this home. Consistency matters way, way more than intensity.
So better to do a little bit every day than cramming loads in once a week.
Much better. Doing, say, 15 minutes of really focused shadowing and maybe 15 minutes of internal narration practice every single day is far more effective in the long run than trying to do a marathon 6-hour session every Sunday.
Okay, daily habit is key. So what's a realistic time frame then? If someone commits to these 5 steps consistently, say 30, 60 minutes a day, when can they realistically expect to hear and feel a noticeable difference in their flow, their confidence, their naturalness?
Well, the sources are actually quite encouraging on this. They generally suggest that if you put in that dedicated, consistent effort, even if it's just 30 minutes total of combined focused practice each day, you should see and feel a really significant noticeable difference within about 6 to 12 months.
6 to 12 months for a noticeable difference. Okay, that feels achievable, but also realistic. It's not overnight, but it's not decades either.
Exactly. The change happens incrementally, little by little. But the cumulative effect over that kind of time frame, it can be genuinely transformative for your fluency, your confidence, and just how natural your rhythm sounds.
That really underscores it then. Patience and persistence. They're not just nice ideas, they are absolutely non-negotiable ingredients for success in this process.
You're building new mental pathways. You're literally retraining your vocal instrument, building physical muscle memory, and yeah, that just takes time and consistent effort.
It's the small daily wins that add up.
Absolutely. You're replacing years, maybe decades of thinking patterns dominated by your first language. You're building new direct pathways for English. That requires daily reinforcement until those new pathways become the default. #tagout Trey Tall.
Okay, so let's try and summarize the big picture here, the overarching principles we've pulled from all this material. achieving that native-like sound in English. It doesn't happen by accident, and it's not just about knowing more words.
Right.
It seems to be the direct result of really focused, intentional practice that targets three key things. Number one, dedicated listening, especially to the cadence and rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, intentional mimicry, using techniques like shadowing to build that crucial muscle memory for sounds and flow.
Yep.
And number three, the dedicated, conscious practice of actually thinking in English to achieve that cognitive fluency, bypassing translation.
That sums it up perfectly. And let's just quickly reiterate the mindset you need to bring to this.
Yeah.
Do not be afraid of making mistakes.
Yeah.
They are going to happen. It's absolutely inevitable.
Embrace the mistakes.
Kind of, yeah. Because every single time you open your mouth and practice, every word you manage to get out, even if it's not perfect, that's a step closer to making it automatic.
Yeah.
Mistakes aren't failures here. Think of them more like data points.
Data points.
Yeah, data telling you exactly where you need to focus your attention in your next recording analysis or your next shadowing session. They guide your practice.
Okay, data, not failure. I like that reframe. So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on after this deep dive. If we really accept this core idea that native-like speaking is defined more by rhythm, by prosody, by using common phrases smoothly, rather than by achieving absolutely perfect grammar in every single sentence, then how should that change your personal definition of success in learning English? Should you maybe start measuring your progress based on how confident you feel, how smoothly the words are flowing, rather than just counting how many new vocabulary words you learned this week?
It's a powerful question. Rethink your metrics. Commit to putting these 5 practical steps into action consistently. And just be patient with yourself during that rewiring process. The results, the fluency, the naturalness, they will follow that consistent effort.
We really hope this deep dive has helped you pinpoint exactly how you can move closer to those fluency goals you're aiming for. And hey, if you found these practical insights useful,
I hope you did.
please do take just a second to click like or subscribe to the channel, or maybe share this deep dive with anyone else you know who's also working hard to really master the flow of spoken English.
Yeah, your support genuinely helps us keep digging deep and bring you this kind of actionable analysis.
It really does. Thanks so much for tuning in.
We appreciate you listening, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.